and you cannot begin to isolate him and make him the fourth. He's still my brother and my president. Mama Margaret, Mrs. Magoya, your wonderful son. You shared those last moments very deeply with President Uhuru. You know, I didn't get very close to Professor Magoha, and I know why. He was so forthright. Not that I'm not forthright. and I knew, yes, we had a disdained political leaders, politicians, but I think he was the greatest leader. And you combine these attributes, and you end up with a man of great excellence. And you can understand why he would have no time for tribal talk, as Fred has said, because he himself went beyond tribal boundaries. And why would he then get himself constrained here to talk of Aluo, Aluya, Mkamba, Kikuyu? In fact, I'm told when he went for vetting, that question was raised. And how he handled it, I think everybody was left aghast. Because he would then point out that as mediocrity. I was once, upon a time, Your Excellency, Minister for Education, for actually a good 3.5 years. And Mzee Mudi Awori, believe it or not, was my assistant minister. And the thing I remember that I did, there are two things. First of all, teachers came demonstrating along Harambee Avenue, and I looked through the window, and they said, "Minister with baby face, think with the KANU, and not with the teachers." I remember that. Magoha did not have to go through that kind of torture, because it was firm. And he didn't have to handle a strike, because I was handling a huge strike that time. And from Foreign Affairs, where Mzee Moi had posted me, and I got to education, I believed we could do things in a more diplomatic manner within the education sector. It didn't seem to work, because I said we all know our problems. Because teachers wanted this pay thing, the late Katumanga and the team. That was tough. The next thing I remember, Your Excellency, is I actually outlawed the corporal punishment from our schools. I don't remember anything else major. But here we are celebrating. I think he was also a physician, wasn't he? A great medical man, chairman of medical dentists and practitioners, something. They worked with a young man called Daniel Yumbia, and they were able to put discipline, even at that level of medical practitioners, not just within the education sector. So you can understand why I shied away from meeting Professor Magoha, because you remind me of mediocrity when I was his minister, when I was Minister for Education. So, is Magoha Luo? Is he a Luya? He's a Kenyan. And here we are really burying a true nationalist. Fred, I think you have said it properly. Nobody can replace Professor George Magoha. And this is the real bully. George was not. He just was putting across his points so that we can all end up with a better country. Are we now painting? You know, he says he sees me doing things which are pretty controversial. And unlike George, I'll continue doing those things until we realize that Professor Magoha wanted a country which is all inclusive, which is devoid of corruption, open corruption, a country that is spewing hatred right now. What would George think of hearing his number one? Because I've heard about number one severally. Number one now being victimized. I want to tell you, Kenyans, Joe, you, my brother, I suspect you're very close in terms of how old is who is older than who. If you, yes, between us, If anybody was today to go out and seem to victimize President Uhuru Kenyatta, I don't know what is going to happen to this country. Because in his time, allow me to say that, because he was Magoha's boss. I happen to have been in politics for a long time because I entered there young, even unmarried. And so I've seen it all. Even when Mzee Kenyatta left us in 78, I was at the Kenya School of Law. The first time I went to State House, I saw him, Mzee, laying in state. And these men, some of them tall, blue ties, and must conclude, all of you have fallen short of Magoha standards except me. I'm wearing a tie. You're wearing a collar. You can get away with it. I actually must admit I had to think about it. And in honor of Professor Magoha, those standards, and compromisingly high standards, that is the brother we are escorting. And so I saw Mzee Moi take over from Mzee Kenyatta, and eventually Mzee Moi, Mzee Kibaki took over from Mzee Moi, seamless transition. And nobody, no name calling. And I can tell you the truth, truthfully, that there are some with me in cabinet at that time who wanted Mzee Moi dispossessed of the place he stays, a place in Kibera, near there. And so when these friends brought the matter up in cabinet, of course, we objected, some of us. These are no secrets anymore. And we said, no. So Mzee Kibaki actually ordered Chris Murangaru and Kiraitu Murungi to deliver the title deed to Mzee Moi, to show that we must respect our leaders at that level if we are going to have a country. So what does Mzee Kibaki in return? President Uhuru takes over from Mzee Kibaki. He considered Kibaki his father. So what is this we are hearing around town? The pettiness about which Fred is talking. You hear things that clearly will remind you of a country like Zambia. When President Chiluba took over from Kaunda and he started saying Kaunda is a Malawian after having been president for 28 years, Chiluba did not last. So here as we celebrate this great Kenyan, a colossus of an academic giant and a nonsense minister, one who would he touched my heart once, and I tell you how, and then I conclude. He was announcing the results, and I now know, because President Uhuru had said, no more exam cheating. And then there's a school perched between, if you know the Rakanidi, between Marimanti and Sekuru, my village, on the river Tana. We named this school after my late mother, Mama Malia. George announces the most improved student that year. A little girl who had gone to Form 1, having scored only 100 points. And it's really failure. And this girl ends up getting a B and going to the university. That really excited Professor Magoha. He said, I don't even know where this Mama Malia school is. Wherever it is, we are very proud that the most improved girl in the whole country has come from a place nobody knows about. That was George, even lifting people from nowhere. Now, I must conclude by wishing this family well. Mama and Michael, you told me when I came, I've just been here for the first time. You were in school with Kennedy. I look for him and tell him to get a wife. Because he actually told me he was disciplining them. Yeah. So that we can end up with more Magohas. Friends, it's important. Let's all stand together in solidarity at this time. If you think some of us are going crazy, it is because we think we love this country, like Professor George Magoha did. And now I've had so many of those secrets. If being opposition, I was opposition to Jubilee, so I was really, had I known some of these important tricks, I would probably have come out supporting you. But here is a man, a colossus of a Kenyan nationalist, whom we are trying to say kwaheri to. But again, as I prayed, very